So joining us now is Bruce Klingner from the Heritage Foundation. He is also a former CIA deputy chief for Korea. We're really happy to have you on today, given everything that happened over the weekend. What's your takeaway?
Well, the historic DMZ visit really was a photo op, but in the subsequent meeting with Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader did agree to allow his diplomats to meet with U.S. diplomats. That's a good gesture, but he also made the same promise back in Singapore in June of 2018, and then had 6 months where his diplomats refused to meet with the U.S. So we're hoping that the North Korean leader will allow diplomacy to proceed. But even as late as last week, North Korea was still threatening to take stronger measures if the U.S. didn't soften its position.
All that said, everybody has tried everything else. So, it seems like anytime there's a first, maybe that's a step in the right direction. What do you think?
Well, I would have held back the reward of this first until there had actually been some progress. Since Singapore, North Korea has continued to be intransigent. When they did allow their diplomats finally to meet with Special Envoy Steve Biegun.
What's the price of it, though? I mean, what are we really giving up here by having the president visit and do this? A lot of people say elevating him on a world stage. Everyone on the world stage knows exactly who Kim Jong-un is and what he's capable of. And in terms of in his country, there's no votes or anything. It's not like this increases his popularity with the country. I just wonder, it may be a photo op and a stunt, but in terms of jump-starting things and getting it back on track, what's really the risk? What did the president give away?
There is a cost to prioritizing the relationship over strategic objectives. Overall, the president, in a way, has undermined all three aspects of the maximum pressure policy. He's been holding back, as previous administrations did, on fully enforcing U.S. law, on fully having maximum pressure. Last year, he said there were 300 North Korean entities he was not sanctioning, though they were violating U.S. law. We've had cancellations of 11 U.S. South Korean military exercises after the president announced that last year. And then he's embracing someone who is on the U.S. sanctions list for human rights violations, who the UN says is committing crimes against humanity. So on sanctions and deterrence and diplomatic isolation, in a way, we're moving against ourselves.
Because everything else has worked really well in the past. We'll see. All right, let me ask you about Iran while you're here. And the IAEA saying today that they have gone back over their enrichment limit. What do you think of that development, and what would be the best course of action from here?
Well, it's very worrisome. It's a way for Iran of trying to counter pressure to the U.S. maximum pressure policy. So the U.S. has to remain resolute. We need to maintain the pressure on Iran. This really shows the nature of the regime in that they're trying to scare America's allies or other business partners to put pressure on Washington to come back to the table before it's a viable way of doing it. We have to maintain the pressure on Tehran to get them to come back to the table in a meaningful way, to encompass more of the activities than that which was under the previous nuclear agreement.
It's so interesting when you group those two stories together, because obviously totally different approaches to each thing, and it's a flip-flop from the last administration, and we'll see if he makes progress or, things get better or worse. We still are awaiting all that evidence. Bruce Klingner, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.